We are all a little depraved and debaucherous. Here is the king of podcasts.
And welcome to Depraved and Debaucherous. This is another episode here for all of you in the month of June as we're recording. ddradio.live, it's where you find the show and all of my past content going back to May of 2022. Thanks for listening in. If you haven't done so, please subscribe and share Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can do it right there. And make sure to review, leave a 5-star rating. I'd really appreciate all of that as we go ahead and move along into the program. TikTok. And I watch more than my share of TikTok. And of course, there's always going to be dating advice that's going to pass along my For You page. And there's a couple of stories we have on here about what the younger generation is doing right now in terms of dating habits and what they're doing. And there's a couple of stories that really caught my interest. One from a Penn University graduate student who wrote a story on gender, sexuality, and women's studies. We're going to dive into that. But what I want to take into first is a story that comes about from South Africa. This is from the International Center for Investigative Reporting, titled Sex, Money, and Love, What University Students Say About Romance and Dating in a Material Age. This is a good precursor to talking about dating and the advice that TikTok gives. Now, South Africa, it's a changing area. And I tell you, I've got a chance to go and talk to a few girls that are there in South Africa, you know, in terms of kind of pen paling or talking or going on different sites to go ahead and communicate and understanding the issues of load shedding and all the issues that are going on with things with the change of the culture, the change of everything over there. And how women are struggling, especially. And women have a very hard time across the board down there. A lot of beautiful women in South Africa. Let's just make that point very, very clear. So in this story, they talk about, this is from the University of South Africa, and a writer named Puleng Sigalo talks about transactional sex, defined as the exchange of consensual sex for material support like gifts, money, or food. It's occurring on university campuses in many parts of the world. And I didn't realize it was so much, but yeah, obviously it's becoming more and more common. And we're seeing stories talking about it. As a matter of fact, we know that the OnlyFans platform, right after COVID, really blew up. So you're seeing women and men going into that sex work, but not necessarily doing it in person. But this is actually different now. South Africa and scholars are highlighting the importance of understanding transactional sexual relationships, pay for play, or in some cases it would be sugar daddies, okay? Or sugar relationships. A way for young women to mitigate poverty or because they want to enjoy the advantages of what is perceived as an elite and glamorous lifestyle. So they came together, this person along with a couple of other psychology scholars, on how young South African female university students construct themselves as sexual beings and negotiate dating and intimate relationships. The findings view transactional intimate relationships from multiple levels, including family experiences, the cultures they are embedded in, and broader contexts. The factors all influence on how they articulate their understanding of intimate relationships. And financial considerations may compel and shape their choice of sexual partners, but they're not the only factor. Others include the chance to get work, to advance their careers, or to unlock their educational opportunities. So there's a lot of reasons. And they did focus groups with 14 women students at one South African university just to get the idea. They wanted to know perceptions and understanding of transactional relationships. They were all aged between 19 and 26. So perceptions were small. It was a small group. So they got a lot when it came to understanding how women students will perceive transactional relationships. They were aware they engaged in intimate relationships for a variety of reasons. They want their love and sexual needs met, enhance their socioeconomic and social standing within peer groups and wider society. And others referred to some researchers as sexual economic relationships, enhancing one's standing or result in class mobility for the young women involved in transactional sex. So they talk about how do they identify which men they want to go and get together with financially. And many of them said it was by the car he drives. So a sexual relationship with a man who has a good job is seen as a safer option than one that's unemployed, unmotivated, unable to provide the young woman's consumer expectations. And man's ability to work hard counts towards the appeal to women, and reflected in some of the comments made by one young woman in the study. So one woman says that most girls her age tend to go for guys who have money who are well established. And a sense of where they're going with their lives, most girls are tired of going for guys who just sit at home and do nothing all day. Another, I don't think relationships do exist. Nowadays, I don't think so. It's more about material, what you don't have. If a guy comes to you driving a Volvo and comes to you driving a Mazda 3, the latest, I don't think girls would go for the guy driving a Mazda, but the one driving a Volvo, that's all. That's how I see it recently. If a man has multiple girlfriends in transactional management and they learn about each other, the women will often turn their anchor towards each other and not the man. They're not going to blame the man having multiple women that he's spending money to have sex with, right? Interesting that it goes along with that. Other concerns they had here was about contracting HIV/AIDS and other sexually transmitted diseases, and they did not have much faith in future marriages lasting for a long time, or that their husbands would be faithful after going through this, right? This doesn't mean that they didn't want to experience genuine love or pursue marriage, but that would result in having children. And in their research, they found a great deal of nuance around how young women negotiate their intimate relationships with men. The nature of transactional relationships can no longer be solely understood within the frames of disenfranchised young women and men as an embodiment of agency. Rather, critical it is to engage in the ways in which our consumeristic and materialistic global society seems to dictate what is normal, and how this in turn plays a role in how young women choose to engage in transactional relationships. This is where we're going to bring this in here and basically put this all into context, okay? Social media and the fact that you can see different women that might look like you on Instagram, on TikTok, and you see them showing off their lifestyle, what they're wearing in designer clothes, what they're driving in, where they're going to, where they're frolicking, where they're going out to hang out and party. Like, what's the lifestyle they're living? You know, it was one thing to go and see the show Wild Out, which shows on E! and Burke used to go and host back in the early 2000s. And seeing her or Tara Reid and seeing women going out and frolicking, going and partying and going out and, sightseeing and just going out in different parts of the world and just being a girl overseas, partying all the time. Well, that's one thing. But when you're seeing this online more and more, consumeristic, materialistic, global society becoming more normal. And so for some reason, women feel like, well, if they're not beautiful enough, there's all the things they can get to make themselves beautiful, to make themselves feel beautiful and not so insecure. And there are things that they can have and things they can do with their beauty and your youth and their image that are able to get them the things they want. Because if this girl can get what she wants, I should be able to get the same thing. But that's the problem here. It is social media ultimately that's the result. And the dating apps do the same thing. Because if you see the guys that are on there, then you think, well, you're only going to go to some of the guys that you want to get, and you think you're beautiful enough, and you might just feel like you're willing to get anybody you want. But see, all those materialistic, consumeristic things that they're talking about in this article doesn't count for anything for the guy. The guy doesn't care, right? The guy doesn't care what you're driving, doesn't care what kind of job you have, doesn't care about any of that. Remember, it's only one way. Consumeristic, materialistic. The guys look for beauty, youth, and possibly relationships and marriage and someone to have kids with. Two completely different things. And that's what's going on here. And then, if it's not the visuals, it's the messages being put out on places like TikTok. And that's the story in today. So, an honors thesis for gender, sexuality, and women's studies, Talia Feaster. She wrote a study titled Neoliberal Love and the Pathology of Gen Z Singledom. This is from a University of Pennsylvania student. Now, look, trying to use some political term like neoliberal doesn't make a difference to me. I mean, you want to say progressive, want to say different thinking, different feeling, But I think the way the South African study said, consumeristic, materialistic, sounds about more right. At least I look at it that way. So let's look into the story. Now, she writes that on TikTok, scores of women apply contouring makeup while giving dating advice, how to set boundaries, turning a man into a fan. And there's reels of relentless tutorials, and the presiding sentiment is that it's all hopeless. So, Talia Feaster just recently graduated with a degree in gender studies, and she examined 51 TikTok videos looking at contemporary Gen Z dating against the backdrop of the rejection of the couple form. So, right, non-traditional relationships where you're not doing the traditional dating game and you're not being courted, and love, compassion, understanding, companionship, they're not the focuses. They're not the priorities when a woman goes into a relationship with a man. It's what do you have and what can you get me? That's what we're getting more of. And don't think it's not that way. Maybe not everyone feels that way, but there are a lot more feeling that way because they're being programmed to do so. They're being fed the propaganda to make them feel like, well, that's what they want and whatever every girl wants. It used to be as simple as going to the mall and see what there was to go shop and what to buy. But now that you can go and buy anything online and buy whatever you want, you know, we've had the Fashion Novas and the Sheens and all these other designers out there that can put stuff out. And the rise of different shops that are out there for lashes and for makeup and for, Jesus, everything. And learning from other women what they could do on how to improve themselves, their vanity, what their gear looks like, what they're doing. They're going to influencers, which at the end of the day are amateurs. They're not professionals. And what you have to understand is sometimes you see people in these videos, you're not going to replicate them. You're not going to be the same as them. So why even try? But some of them think, well, they can be the next Kim Kardashian. They can look like Megan Thee Stallion. They can look like Cardi B. They can look like whatever they want. But they can't. Because if you really think about how much money and how much time are done to create certain images, and even for some of the influencers now, it's just changed. So now here's what we got from the Scholastic class here. Sarah Bennett Weiser, she is Distinguished Professor of Communication at the Annenberg School for Communication at University of Pennsylvania. And she has been appointed into the Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies program at the School of Arts and Sciences. She says this: we can position the work of this thesis writer in broader conjuncture of a variety of cultural events that have been happening. Hookup culture, the history of online dating, and the pandemic. And she's looking at the elements along broader trends, which among things is about being a self-entrepreneur and putting yourself out there. So that's what she means by neoliberal culture. The independent woman, the modern woman, as we like to go and say. You hear that in alpha male circles. We hear it all the time. But she goes on to say that there are more dating apps that people can take advantage of. There's sort of less satisfaction in finding a relationship. And there were 4 themes she found to the common TikTok videos: pain, loneliness, and self-blame, hopelessness and compulsory heterosexuality, self-help and entrepreneurship, and community and collectivism. And these are emerging in a progressive pattern. So one identifies and situates the problem at stake. One locates culpable actors and forces. The other attempts to potentially resolve the problems of the first. And the last one reveals the beginnings of an establishment of virtual community. So on social media, you're finding now there's hyper-individualism. It's advertising overwhelmingly to young women when they find themselves unhappy with their dating lives. A manifesto to do my makeup better, what I should be buying to look prettier, or how I should be dating. It can pertain to hobbies or career, how to make yourself into a more interesting package in order to attract a higher quality partner. Men don't have the pressure to make themselves into a package. But for women, there is narrative about rejecting the couple form in the name of self-optimization. It's about working on yourself. Let me read that again. Talia, you hit the nail on the head. This is correct. Depraved and Debaucherous listeners, if you listen for a long time, this young lady right here, this is gospel. Men have to understand this. This is what's being put into women's heads. And men need to understand that they're not being put into the pressure of that. Like, here's the thing. We're not pressuring ourselves to go out with women. What's happening is more guys are giving up. But what's going on here in this point? Let me read this again. Quote, men do not have the pressure to make themselves into a package. Now, the younger guys are starting to get that idea they need to be a package. You see some guys that are working hard on their hair product, working hard on their look, and starting to be a little more feminine in some cases, and starting to accessorize and starting to color coordinate and be much more dressed for success like women do. Now, men also are having to bring themselves into a package. She's to be a package of appeal, yes. But there's a different package for guys. I'll put this into Talia's point as a debate. Devil's advocate. Guys have to be a package of success. They have to be the entrepreneur. They have to be the success story. They have to have the life, the luxury, the lavishness. They have to exude success. They have to pose. They have to give the status seeking. They have to show the status. They have to present themselves to make them look as if they got everything going on, everything a woman wants of them, not of them personally in their heart, but what they have around them. And guys are having to go and use this as a manipulation, basically, to get a woman they want for sex, but not a relationship. And because the women are being made into packages and they're self-optimizing, okay, well, then those guys don't want to deal with high maintenance. By the way, did we all forget that note many years ago? There are a lot of guys that don't want high maintenance women. And you know what? It doesn't have anything to do with what you're wearing, what your makeup looks like, if it's on point. That's not something to do with that. Now your high maintenance deals with the fact you want to be career driven, that you want to have all these different things being met, like you're being invested on. But it's like there's no investment back on the guy. High maintenance now means all maintenance. We used to talk about high maintenance women. They're not high maintenance anymore. They're complete maintenance. Complete oversight, complete maintenance, concierge, if you will. We have to be their concierge. We have to meet to every woman's need now without any expectations of anything in return. It's getting to be that way. I can't say all, but there is a greater amount on the younger generations. You're 30 and younger? Absolutely. Because now we're seeing the way where it's nothing about trying to hold on to the original, authentic, natural version of you. Because the self-optimization, the self-improvement, it has nothing to do with doing things like beauty treatments or, diet or exercise or nutrition. Listen, I should have thought of that a long time ago, and I wish I knew what I knew now when I was, 17, 18 years old. I wish. But the thing is that the kind of beauty treatments and secrets that are being told now, maintenance of the beauty is one thing. If you're just maintaining the natural beauty that you have and, making adjustments to make yourself as optimally beautiful in your natural state. But we're not seeing that. Because self-improvement has nothing to do with what a woman already has, which a man already likes, already loves, already wants and adores. No, women now have to go ahead and escalate. Brazilian butt lifts, lash extensions, hair extensions, weaves, and then move along into, Botox injections, lip fills, all the cosmetic surgery, and then having them be prepared that they will be single, they won't have anybody else that they're being thought, well, they don't want to go the normal process and have somebody support them and live a wonderful life with kids. That's being looked down upon. There are a couple of things that were fine. Self-improvement and self-help. Well, self-help can't come from the internet. Not necessarily. So she goes on to say there's this rampant how-to self-improvement, self-help culture that thrives on social media, especially on platforms like TikTok, because people can turn them really quickly for advice. But remember, these influencers are trying to make money off of you many times, or trying to get clicks, and the amount of views they're getting, they're going to get paid for. Or are we forgetting about that? How many of them have a program? How many of them have certain advice and things that they do that help out for themselves, right? Some of that's also about that. Donations and also other things. So you're getting some of that, and there's a lot of that going on. Now, we move past all the stuff about the pandemic. Let's worry about that. She also makes a point about it's all about trying to marry up or partner up, looking for your equal, but maybe equals who can just elevate you just a bit. Well, now it's you want someone to marry up or partner up. If you're going to, it's not going to be a long-term situation. It's all short-term. Elevate you just a bit. No, elevate Ted, not just a bit. It's elevate, period. Romantic relationships have been commodified. Correct. More than ever, college students are relying on hookup apps or dating apps, which is a commodification of dating in and of itself, because you're paying for these services, or at least you're watching advertisements. This is generating money for the companies. Gen Z daters will define someone who matches them in socioeconomic status, like education level, and career goals. Someone like them, but better. Remember, they always want something better than who they are, better than what they can get. Not the bare minimum. The guys can expect the bare minimum, but not the women. She explains that if she's pretty, that helps him. If she's wealthy, that helps him. If she's educated, that helps him. It's all about trying to marry up or partner up. I don't agree with that. There's no benefit for a guy when he finds a woman that's beautiful, or if she's wealthy, or if she's educated. Those are just traits that are wonderful to have. Those are the traits you want in a wife or in a partner. But we don't know that now. I think we treat partnership relationships or marriage as a potential for growth, and so by maximizing your own potential, you're investing in yourself through partnership. There's a very particular dedication that Americans have to these principles, and it's all about the individual, self-improvement, and self-optimization. Women are often shelved, kept hanging because they're a good choice, because they're their partner's top option. They're left in situationships where there are no boyfriend-girlfriend labels and no future, mimicking, gig workers and at-will firing. Right, there's no commitment. Relationships without commitment. Situationships. And the women are being shelved because they don't want to take what's out there that's available. They don't want to take average. Plenty of average guys out there. I'm raising my hand because I'm one. Okay? Now, she goes on and says that in the relationship reality now, sex is first base, holding hands is second, meeting the parents is third, right? What was it the other way around? Okay, holding hands first, meeting the parents second, sex third. But that's all changed. Sex now comes up front first. While hookup culture may be nothing new, she also says the pervasive feeling that there's no one out there for heterosexual young women is compounded by hyper-individualist images that tell a woman that only maximizing her own potential will she attract the man of her dreams, and conversely, there's no point to dating men because men are trash. See, there's no one out there. Women, ladies, if you're subscribing to this right here, and you believe this hyper-individual message that Talia is talking about right here, self-improvement, we don't need anybody, men are trash, then of course there's no one out there for you. You don't want a man, you want a unicorn. And I don't know anybody that can hunt unicorns and find one. And there's not many of those out there. Maybe less than none. And she also makes the point about straight Gen Z women feeling safe, feel about being attracted to men. There's now a part where women are not allowed to be attracted to men. This is an interesting point. Let's pick this up here. Here we go. I'm quoting from Talia Feister. A pervasive shame that straight Gen Z women feel about being attracted to men. Quote, the principal issue that we're seeing among young straight people right now, and especially straight women, is that they hate being straight because of the apparent hopelessness of finding romantic, exclusive, and committed relationships amid 2023 hookup culture. An example of this would be like, oh, I wish I was gay, or I hate it that I'm attracted to men, or it would be so much easier to be lesbians. So listen to that. Now, of course, women are out there choosing to date the same sex. Have at it. Have a fun, great time, okay? But how many women have gone bisexual or have gone lesbian or gay because of the fact that they've given up on men because they don't think there are any good men out there? That's a sad state of affairs. Now, if a woman wants to be attracted to a man, wants to have sex with a man, she shouldn't feel shame for that. She shouldn't feel like she can't do that. Listen, ladies, if you like dick, then like dick. That's okay. Do you really? It's as simple as that. Biological feeling. If you feel like you might be able to find more women attracted to you, fine. But do you want a scissor? Maybe not. Are you going to Are you going to feel good with a strap on? Maybe not. But if you like good natural dick, then that's what you want a man. So you shouldn't just give up on a man because of that. Now, if you feel like you want to get the best of both worlds, then go ahead and find a woman to be with and have the best of both. Maybe you can find a menage a trois, right? The concept is heteropessimism. And this is coined in a 2019 essay for the New Inquirer by Asa Saressen, doctoral candidate at the English department at Penn. Called performative disaffiliations with heterosexuality, usually expressed in the form of regret, embarrassment, or hopelessness about straight experience. Performative. So acting hypocritical, sanctimonious, like, oh, you're so above, oh, I can't be traditional. Oh, God forbid, right? Even though these statements are expressed as cynical jokes, there's a performative element. It's almost taboo to express straightforward desire for men who don't have the caveat of being like men are trash or I kind of hate men. She says she focuses on the viral spread of heteropessimism among young women on social media. Creators post video content about their lives almost as diary entries. And it's a false narrative that glosses over the abuse and toxicity that exists in every dating reality. Now, that's the part that makes sense. Being pessimistic about dating because you've been in some narcissistic, controlling, manipulative relationships by guys that were not raised right to be properly gentlemen to the women, then you have all the rights in the world to feel jilted and feel like you need to go somewhere else with your love and affection. And if women is the option, okay. That makes a lot of sense. Or if you find a man that is transgender and has become a woman and converted, or, a man that placates to being a woman, dresses and acts like a woman before surgery, post-op, or pre-op, that's okay too. The thing is, if you feel like you can't find that kind of relationship, the other part is you have guys, I'll tell you this, that old thought about like where some guys are a bit feminine and gay and getting close to the women that they're with and they're being friend zoned. Well, don't be second guessing the fact you think that everything's going to be just fine. Maybe the guy is just going along to get along and going with whatever she feels like, whatever he feels like he can to get close to her because eventually he wants to have sex with her. Because he wants something to do with his dick. Okay? Straight women hate being straight because of the apparently hopelessness of finding romantic, exclusive, and committed relationships amid 2023 hookup culture. And she realized that women experience heteropessimism in a multitude of ways that go right under the radar. Heteropessimism is not limited to social media, but it definitely thrives there. Young women telling stories about men and dating as a route toward bonding and a way of constantly reaffirming that they were participating in the same experience and also mediating and mitigating all the negative feelings and uncertainty. So many Gen Z have learned norms about dating and sex from social media for actually participating. Right. Before they even start dating, they're learning from the internet, from people on the internet that probably are not good enough to give advice. Maybe I'm one of those people, okay? I mean, of course, this show's called Depraved and Debaucherous for a reason. But I'm going through my own experience, my own understanding, and trying to give lessons because I want dating and relationships to get restored again. I want men and women to get back in love again. Can we find a way to get that back, please? Please? I want to take from one more story tonight, which is really interesting to me, and it feels sad to me. There's new data saying that today's generation in Canada are less likely to couple up. If you're looking for single men and women, folks, go to Canada. Statistics Canada shows a significant demographic change in terms of couplehood and marriage. Today's younger adults in Canada are less likely to be living as part of a couple. Alternates like living alone, roommates, or parents have become more common. From 25 to 29 years old, 2/3 of people were a couple in 1981. Now, that's 68%. Now it's 40%. 30 years plus later. And these trends resemble those in other countries and reflect numbers seen across the world, by the way. Less people getting together. Canada has been decreasing in the marriage rate. Marriage rate was 6.3 marriages per 1,000 people in 1971. 2019, it dropped to 4.5 marriages per 1,000 people. And the amount of people single, 15 and over in 1981 were 33% of the population, single. Now, 45% of the population ages 15 and over are single by 2016. And they go through the proportionate number of singles and what's going on. And they're saying it's because increase in the number of people divorced or separated, increase in the number of people who are focused on the personal goals that don't have time or energy to invest in a long-term relationship. So the hyper-individualism is honestly being put on both ways. The alpha male mentality and this modern woman mentality. It's not helping either side. Hyper-individualism. But it's getting to that because now it's just being put that way and people just can't be together. And what happens to those that want to be in love still? And they look at the trend and they think that decreasing couplehood and remarriage rates are going to continue to decrease. So, hyper-individualism. This modern woman, I don't need no man, men are trash kind of mentality. There's not any good ones out there. It's a horrible way of thinking. Let's get some people back together, huh? Let's stop this bullshit. Honestly, I don't want to see this for everyone out there. And I hope you'll take the time to consider and think about that you don't want it to be this way. Then maybe you want to go ahead and put yourself out there and see if you can get in love. And let's not do it just for pay for play. Let's go ahead and just get nasty, get sexy, and start hooking up and trying to stay together. You know, make a relationship work after you've been a little depraved and debaucherous.
Hello,